What's going on, everybody? You've got the cardboard coach here with your boy, Coach Co. And team, today we've got very special guests on the podcast here today. We've got Imano and Pete from Hobby Slam. How are you doing today, boys?
We're doing great. It's a new year, new day, new blessings, new horizons.
I love that.
Fantastic, man. Happy New Year to everyone on who's watching.
Yes. Happy New Year. The first one of the new year, so I'm excited to have you guys. You're gonna set the tone for the rest of the year, man.
Oh, I mean, yeah, and honestly, I mean, we already it had announced it at this point, but something to kick off the new year was AA Mint Cards, which is one of the more premier shops down here.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. They're opening their brand new shop, and they announced that the trade night we're hosting with them is going to be the grand opening. So on January 20th, they're gonna have this massive space that I want to say is like double or triple the size of their shop now, and it's gonna be like a brand new like breaker haven.
Amazing. And I mean, do you guys want to dive into that a little bit? Like, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but like, I do want to know, like, yeah, like, talk to me about that. You guys are going to be included in the trade night component?
Yeah, so I mean, something that we figured is a good way to socialize with the local community down here. Like the good thing about South Florida is there is a lot of shops, right? But a lot of
Yeah.
people don't recognize how many shops there actually are. And the thing about shops in the hobby is it connects the local community with the community, like how you and I connect.
Yeah.
We connected internationally because you're in Canada, I'm
Yeah.
here online. A lot of people don't really do that when it comes to actually collecting, right? It's a physical hobby for people to do. You go into a shop, you rip a pack of cards, you're holding the pack, and usually the people you're interacting with are the people that you get to know.
Yeah.
So we want to kind of mix the two worlds, because down here, like, a lot of the shops have these great communities, and we have this way to connect with people around the nation and beyond. So any way we can make that happen. So what we decided was to host a trade night tour to lead up to our show. So we took 5 of the more premier shops around the way, not saying any particular order, but
Yeah.
these 5 shops that we felt were in great locations, they were great sizes, and that could benefit the community locally, right? We could connect areas like Miami with Cooper City, and Cooper City with West Palm Beach, and West Palm Beach with Pembroke Pines, and Pembroke Pines with Pompano. And these areas, the Tri-County area, it's like there's these dividing lines. And
Yeah.
even in like worlds like entertainment and music, you see the same exact thing. So we're trying to remove those dividing lines, and make this a whole community. It's not just South Florida. At the end of the day, it's all of Florida. We want people to work their way down from Tampa or Orlando, and we felt this was a great way to do just that.
Yeah, I think that the integration aspect of what you guys do and is really kind of what got me on your radar, or you guys on my radar, and vice versa, I guess. One of the more prominent things I saw you guys do is the Art Basel. I mean, it's Miami's known for Art Basel Week. It's a massive, there's an influx of people that fly in, and it's all about kind of culture and that same theme of like bringing everyone together and really like an immersive experience. And I saw that you guys had your own theme, like it was a sports card type theme in correlation with Art Basel. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I thought that was awesome. And where did that idea come up, or where did that idea come from? And yeah, there you go.
He's already pointing right
Yeah,
at
this is something we've worked on. I think to get everything organized and be able to do it. That's something that Daniel has been telling me. Hey, man, we got to be at Art Basel. I was not the experienced one to be going out to these art shows and seeing the level of opportunity, not only just to be out there and just to experience what Art Basel is, but how much of a great opportunity it is to put our own little spin on things as collectors. So I don't want to take this as completely your baby.
Yeah.
I was just along for the ride and just thought it was a great idea, and thankfully we had the opportunity to go out and do it.
Yeah, first off, I want to say thank you to Loop Sports Cards. They're a shop that took a chance, and they placed themselves in the heart of Wynwood, which is definitely the most lively area in Miami right now. It's the art district, for those who don't know. There's paintings everywhere. You have the Wynwood walls, which is known for like graffiti and pieces of art being put up. But For me personally, I came from the music industry. I was a producer. I helped manage some artists and things like that. And I was at Art Basel all the time for all these events. And it's just this great feeling because it's not just these high-end events. It's the fact that you could get into these events for free. It's the fact that you could just run into a place and Wiz Khalifa's having a DJing event. You go into another place and Timbaland and Swiss Beats are having a beat battle. You go into another spot and someone's having this like art exhibit while they're painting a Lamborghini in person. And when you think of like sports cards, like, yeah, it's like small potatoes compared to some of these things, especially like price wise in certain aspects. um but it's still the same concept, right? Like when you walk into most of these shops now, you see those show your slab walls that are up there
Yeah.
with hundreds of slabs ready to go. You now have custom card art where people are cutting up different cards and making their own versions of cards. And we're even seeing, some of these like independent manufacturers coming out of the woodworks that are making their own, artistic feeling of like what their own card should be, with
Yeah.
like people like Steph Curry and Brock Purdy, or even like Wild Card. Like Wild Card, I think is
Yeah.
a very eye appealing card. It's like an artistic
Yeah.
looking card, or like
Tyson
Celebrity Mint.
Tyson Beck is up there too, you know?
Yeah, Tyson Beck, he's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
another one. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
But in Miami, like you said, Art Basel is this premier weekend. It's almost like if Miami had their own Christmas, that's what Art Basel really is like
Yeah.
this like, cultural phenomenon that you cannot find anywhere else. You could go to California, you could go to New York, and all these different places that come close. But truth be told, Art Basel is really like none other. And it only gets crazier every single year. You see these new industries branch on into it. And I won't say we were the first like trade night real organized like event to happen. I know like DJ Ski has come in and he's tried doing some stuff during
Yeah.
Art Basel, but it just didn't have the same effect. But we really want it to be a lasting imprint on what Art Basel is supposed to be and continue that expansion of these different industries that mesh in to make Art Basel what it is.
Yeah, I think, we often, especially when the prices for things were going all-time highs, we heard a lot of correlation between, sports cards being pieces of art, right? Especially when it comes to like vintage pieces, especially when it comes to those seven, eight, it's 7 and 8 figure cards basically, that they're pieces of art. I mean, these are things that are, I mean, they're limited in print. They're, they're highly sought after. In some cases, they're displayed in a, magnificent fashion. So, it just makes sense that there's a bit of overlap. Now, not to say that everyone who likes cards is going to like art, and everyone who likes art is going to like cards, but being able to connect the dots between those two and create an event out of it, and just kind of like piggyback on Art Basel, I think is a great call on your part.
Well, you kind of hit the nail on the head, right? You're like, there's these people who go to Art Basel that may collect. There's these
Yeah.
collectors who may enjoy what Art Basel does, for these industries. And a great example of that was, these two guys came from Germany for Art Basel. They found out that we were having the event and they came to Hobby Basel. They dedicated one of their nights to coming to Hobby Basel, with their cards that they had with them. They bought tons of wax. They were ripping and they were enjoying themselves. And they were like, I wasn't expecting this to happen, but this, was a highlight for me to be able to come to Art Basel and be able to collect at the same time. The two worlds of what I love are now combined, because he was like saying that he loves fashion, he loves music, right? And now there's a whole nother aspect that goes in there. I mean, even the cool part is like Loop is across the street from Billionaire Boys Club, and the
Yeah.
employees from Billionaire Boys Club come to Loop. Even next door is Unknown, which is LeBron James's streetwear shop, and those employees even come into Loop and they love buying cards. So it's the same exact thing. And the employees from Loop go into Unknown and they shop sneakers, and they go into Billionaire Boys Club and they shop the clothes, and it's all intertwined in one. So I mean, it just makes sense.
Yeah, and just to kind of expand on that a little bit, like the whole point of everything that we were trying to do is trying to expand the hobby. I mean, I think that's the goal, trying to get everything out there. So why not try these different avenues where if we're doing everything traditionally the way it's been done for the past 10, 20 years, then we're only going to attract the same people we've been attracting for the last 10, 20 years. So why not go out there, take some creative chances, and try to, expand the hobby into much more. If it means that, there's going to be more card art and, custom cards and things, at the end of the day, value is in the eye of the beholder. At the end of the day, you can't look at comps on all those things. So, you can just kind of look at things and say, wow, that means so much to me because that's a player I love, or I have a connection with that in a way that, just ripping a regular box of cards may not connect with other people. So, again, it was just awesome to get out there and be able to do that with a different kind of audience than we're used to doing at just regular card shows.
There are so many great points I want to touch on. The first is it's so funny we're having this conversation because I had a conversation with someone today about card shows. Let's put card shows in quotes, and how a lot of them or some of them recently have started to incorporate shoes and other pieces, and that the old school people are kind of uncomfortable about that. And it's not, and they're uncomfortable because they're like, well, they don't really know what they are. They don't really know, what is this show? And I think that there's this old school mentality where it needs to be one or the other. And I've been talking about for several episodes on this podcast, and I mean, for whoever wants to listen, that I think that we're starting to transition into more of a hobby of ands. It doesn't have to be ors. You can like art and sports cards. You can like collecting jerseys and sports cards. You can like shoes and sports cards. There seems to be this like negative connotation between like, if you're a card collector, you're a card collector. Like you can't spread your money out to other places. And like a lot of people came in from the shoe like from the shoe space during the pandemic. And I think that might have left a bad taste in people's mouth because they're like, oh, you haven't been collecting for 3 decades or 4 decades and you came in and ruined the whole thing. And I just don't know if that's necessarily true. In fact, I know it's not true because at the end of the day, you can't really stop anyone from doing anything that they want to do, truthfully. And I think that, once you come in, the people who are interested are going to really kind of glom onto those interesting aspects. And I think what we're starting to see a lot more of, you guys, you touched upon art, Emano. I think a lot of people are now looking at cards and it becomes a lot about the artwork. Like, I mean, the most recent Prism set, I had a few people reach out to me and say, like, the manga CJ Stroud is like a card that they're looking for. Not even necessarily because it's CJ Stroud. I'm sure that has something to do with it, but just the fact that like they turn him into Iron Man. And like now, like we're overlapping, like, the comics, DC, like movies. There's just like, there's an overlap happening right now in the sports card space. And I think that you guys are a wonderful part of that.
Well, I mean, it's like you said, there can't be like there has to be an and or a or.
Yeah.
You can't just say if you like sports cards, that's all you can do. I mean, like, first off, when it comes to shows, the biggest thing for us was, there was two reasons why we threw the shows, right? One, like you said, the same old crowd. It can't happen, right? If we recycle the same people with the same collections and the same cards, and we're all just ultimately exchanging the exact same things over and over and in different ways and all the different combinations the algorithm could possibly hold for us at that point, right? It needs to expand. It needs to have infinite possibilities, and that happens with each person we add into it. So when we would go to shows, we recognized there was a lot of the same vendors, right? That was the first thing. And then we would try to get onto the shows. This is the second part of it, is that we wanted to get onto the shows. And then when we would get onto the shows, we were told it's really just this circle of vendors. And that's gatekeeping at the end of the day, which, I'm not going to touch up too into the details of who it was, what shows. It's not worth it, right? But it motivated us to realize, well, all right, we could do the same thing. It's not hard to put together a place where you put tables out and you let people come and set up those cards and they just sell the cards. That's the basis of it. And that's the bare minimum, in my opinion. For us, like I said, I came from the entertainment industry. Pete was a baseball player. Like we come from different realms of life, but we mesh in ways where we see, all right, there's this certain recognizability that we have in common, right? And we put it together and we make it work. It's the same exact thing with these industries when it comes to cards and shoes and art. You got to let people come in and find these new audiences, right? Like Art Basel, we said it, right? There were people who went out there for the fashion, but they found cards. There were people who went out there for the shoes, but they found cards. They went out there for the music, but they found cards. And it now integrated a new business into what they love. we want to do the same thing with card shows, right? Because when you go out to these shows, it doesn't matter what state, a lot of them do have the same exact thing, setting up tables, the same card, the same cards being set up, and people trying to find that one thing. But now with the print runs on items, for example, like with Prism, it's not hard to find a lot of the same cards. And then you go table to table, it's like, well, who's just going to give me the cheapest price? And what does that do? It kills the value of what we love, right? And it doesn't necessarily destroy the business, but like I said, it devalues it time and time again. And with each exchange, when we're just exchanging with the same people, the exact same cards, it doesn't really help, right? So now you want to bring in these people that when they find those cards, they, like you said, they want to hold on to it forever in a way, right? There's people that look at pieces of art and they're just like, I connected with this in a way that I would never sell it. It's priceless, right? I want my kids and my grandkids to have this because this means something to me. And we want to hold on to it for generations, right? Like the gentleman who has the PSA 10 Mickey Mantle, he's been offered 20 million, 30 million, and God knows what other offers he's probably had roll in. And he denies it time and time again. He's like, it just means too much to me, right? Because it's one of three, and it's something so exclusive that not everybody can say they have. And that happens when you bring in people like him, because he was a memorabilia collector.
Yeah.
Right. When did the worlds of sports cards and memorabilia come hand in hand together? We don't know, but it happened. And it happened over time. Why? Right? Because they go hand in hand with each other. They're not far apart from what the other one is. It's just two different items being sold. It's the same thing with sneakers. It's the same thing with clothes. That's why we brought in vintage clothing like LNF. They're probably the biggest people out of Miami to do things like that. It's why we went for sneakers with like Dream Kicks for You, who's going to be at our next show, and they're going to have 200 pairs of sneakers ready to sell, and some of the rarest sneakers that you could find, right? But that doesn't happen without being open to the idea of collaboration. There's power in partnership. Yep. Right? We can only benefit by bringing in these businesses because they're only going to bring their audience and we're going to bring them ours. So what do we have to lose to give them at least the opportunity to set up at a show and sell some shoes? It's only going to help everybody else, because someone may walk in for a pair of shoes and then they see that Tua Tagovailoa card, they see a LeBron James card, they see a Derek Jeter card, and they're like, that's my favorite player. I need to get that right now, and I'm going to hold on to this forever. This is the first card I ever bought. I brought my friend to the Dallas card show. That's exactly what happened with him. He was like, what should I buy? I was like, well, let's work on this. Let's find what you want. And I started asking him, I was like, what would you want to get? He was like, Dolphins. And we bought him two rookie cards right then and there. And he won't let go of them. He's had them now for the last 6 months. I mean, he wouldn't know where to sell them, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, he went in and he found something that he had in common with the card collecting world. It was the love of sports.
Yeah.
And he picked up the player that he believes in the most. And that's what card collecting is all about, is belief, passion. That's why we call it the hobby. We don't really look at it as a business. We keep referring to it as a hobby because that's what it is. And passion fuels the hobby.
Yeah, you see a lot of kids, especially when they open a pack of cards, they have no idea how expensive like a Tua card would be. And it could be like a third year, but they're like, oh my God, Tua. You know what I mean? Like they're like, I'm keeping this. And like they're like, I even look back on, I mean, there are cards that my parents have passed down to me that are like from $1 value. It's absolutely worthless. But it's like this is the first time that like Eddie Belfour featured in a Leafs uniform, and I'm like, that's fucking cool. Yeah, like
that is really cool.
That's fucking cool. You know what I mean? Like
you see their face light up in that
of
moment.
Course,
too,
of
sure.
course. Yeah, man. Yeah. And like even I mean, I met Mike Palmetier, and my mom's like, "Oh my God, like what do you mean? Like you met?" And like just watching that happen, it's like it's just so ingrained in people. These are deeply rooted memories that like you'll never be able to take from them. And I think that the more times we open these doors for new entrants, I think that the possibilities are endless. With that, how do you feel about Fanatics now coming in and essentially making people, or bringing them that much closer to a lot of these athletes and wanting to turn these events? I mean, there's reports that Fanatics are going to have an event by the end of 2024. What do you expect for something like that? And how do you feel about the integration with athletes and stuff?
I mean, a lot of people, their immediate reaction is fear. A lot of people do ask us about that because we throw a show. They're like, oh, are you afraid when Fanatics throws a show? No, I love it. You want to know why? Because they're going to push the envelope to what, the new standard of card shows is going to be. The exact thing that I just rambled on about. Like, that's exactly what they're going to do for this hobby. They're going to make sure that these athletes, rappers, influencers and celebrities alike when they roll through places like the National. I mean, Meek Mill was in the
I
National.
was just about to say he was at
You know,
fucking he
like
was at
that's
trade night. Do you know what I
that's
mean? Like
that's huge for me. Like I love
crazy,
hip hop, you know.
crazy.
So like when I see
Yeah.
Meek Mill roll through, and I've been listening to him since like Dream Chasers one. Me and
Yes.
my friends riding around in 2011. Like I it brings back memories, and like now he's coming into the world that I also love. That I'm starting to take on as a full time career, and that's why I love that we throw shows in Miami too.
Yeah.
It gives us a bit of an opportunity because a lot of them love coming to Miami, and it's like I'm okay with Fanatics either throwing their own event or if they're open to partnering with different events. Hey, by all means, we're here for it. How can we continue to expand this industry? Like I just said, there's power in partnership. So I mean, even if it's semi-separate or we go there and support, or even some of their representatives did come to Hobby Slam. I think that it's only going to benefit at the end of the day. It's just more expansion, more growth, more eyes on the products. I mean, even how they're doing things with the Tom Brady rollout. That was huge. I had uncles and aunts telling me, "Did you see this on CNN?" And these people haven't touched a cardboard card in probably 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
But they saw that. So I mean, what can we have to lose if Fnatic steps on in?
I agree, man. Pete, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, no. So I mean, with Fanatics, we for everything that we're thinking about of what the show is going to be, it's like now you have this giant corporate backing that can really take it to the next level. And the one thing that, from conversations that we've had with people that, either work with Fanatics is that they actually are out there looking to find out, what does the collector like? What does the collector want from their shows? What does the collector want, with, who they're bringing in and who, what content they have. So, with their outreach and, whatever corporate, thing that gets scary when it, big money is being brought in, that, the little people won't be recognized. I think they're really taking an account to try and do this the right way. Otherwise, I mean, Fanatics, with their resources and their money, I know they're as popular as they've ever been, but if they really wanted to, they could do this years ago. They had the time, they could get the spaces, they could get the athlete. The way that they've built it up, it sounds like they're trying to do it right, and that they're asking the right people within the hobby to help make it even better and great for no matter who the consumer is. So I generally agree that most people will say fear. We see it as a great opportunity to grow the hobby.
One thing I do want to close it out with even is at the same time of having that fear, there should be a sense of confidence in the hobby, because at the end of the day, Fanatics can't do what they plan to do without noticing that it takes the little people and those vendors and everything in between to make these kinds of experiences happen. They can't just walk into a national and just think because Meek Mill or whoever is rolling through, that's what's drawing people in. That's not. We were all already there.
Yep.
We had the plans to be there regardless, and no one knew Meek Mill was coming through. Did it help when people saw that? Yeah, because it brought new eyes on, which is great, right? But even with the new eyes, it takes that core, and we are that core, and they can't not acknowledge the presence of what the little people do in this, and they need to be able to support those little people in order to see that their bigger picture dreams happen to the way they think it will.
I think I agree with both of you. I think that Fanatics has been very vocal about wanting to include as many people along with the along for the ride who are actively trying to grow the hobby, right? Who are creating a positive experience, who are drawing people in and doing trade nights and stuff of that nature. So I don't think that having them in the event space would negatively impact you. If anything, I think it might make what you guys are doing, like, even like to your point, even more recognizable. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to push events like this. I don't think that suddenly the conventional card show is just going to completely disappear, because there's always going to be stuff like that. But I think that those opportunities to bring in more people, fresh faces. You mean, you have to think about the average person that's coming in. I mean, to your point, like your aunt sees a commercial on CNN, like that. Those are the type of people that they're trying to market. Maybe not your aunt, but like the people who watch games. I mean, yesterday I saw someone posted a story on Instagram. I think it might have been P Ryan. He was at the Pelicans game and they were ripping packs on the jumbotron. And so it's just like those little
Shout out
things.
Marksman.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
Marks
yeah.
on Breaks.
Was it?
They're on loop with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are some
There,
good people right
there
there.
you go.
People.
There you go. Yeah. So you know what I mean? So there's just so many different touch points for the average person. And it's like, okay, like who's doing this? How are we doing this? And how can we get as many eyes and participants in the hobby to see if they want, if they like it, if they want to continue doing it, to find something to fall in love with. Yeah. Go for it.
I
Go for it.
mean, like the thing I think of, right, when you bring up even like Marksman being at like the Pelicans games, like that's huge already. You know, like SGC sponsors the Dolphins now.
Dolphins. Yeah.
You know, that's also huge. And we're seeing where now the mainstream wants to be inclusive of that. I mean, even at the Marlins games and like a lot of the MLB games, you saw there were Topps graphics where a lot of players were designed as baseball cards, Loop even has a wall at the Marlins games. So it's like cool to see all these brands now becoming a part of the actual sport in which collecting surrounds itself. We surround ourselves around the basis of what these players do. The market moves based on accolades, things that they do wrong, injuries, and so on and so forth. So it's like to see now that the cards are somewhat integrated into what actually happens at the game is cool. I mean,
but it's not even the teams themselves. It's the athletes, man.
Yeah.
Anthony Volpe
Yes.
has been buying his first Bowmans ever since his stuff dropped. Corbin Carroll just got into the space because his teammate Evan Longoria was a big fan. I mean, AJ Dillon has been a big part of the space.
I mean,
for the football
he
side
even
of
knows
things,
like
man.
Logan Sargent from F1, and Logan Sargent's dad tells Pete all the time. He's like, "Hey, if you have any Logan Sargent cards or see Logan Sargent cards, have someone give me a call."
It's
awesome.
It's so amazing how this is growing, but it starts with all those things. It starts with these teams being able to recognize this is a big thing that we need to start marketing because kids are interested, man, and these athletes being a part of it too, man. You have it was pretty surreal, and I'm not going to mention the athlete, but you come up to our hobby slam table, just we're going up, and you see an athlete that you can recognize and say, "Oh my God, I know that person," and he's looking at your stuff, looking, all right, so, oh, this is interesting. Where'd you get that? And just asking questions, just like you were a regular Joe, like someone that I couldn't think of having a personal connection with through anything. It's through pieces of cardboard. At the end of the day, it's amazing where this industry has started to grow, even just in these small spaces. I mean, we just look at 2023, the growth of the hobby. It's insane where this could be going, in years to come.
I love that. Talk to me about your own collecting journey. So, Imano, you started in the music industry. Where does the collecting element come in? Do you have like signed records maybe? Do you have like signed?
Well, I definitely do.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
My collecting journey actually does still start off with cards, but I'm not
Awesome.
going to necessarily say it's like traditional sports cards. So
Yeah.
they're once upon a time, and this makes me feel old at this point now. But like now it's at this point, like almost 25, 30 years ago almost.
Yeah.
There was this game called MLB Showdown.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
I love this game, man.
Did you know about this game?
Yeah.
All right. So for those who don't know, you had this like piece of paper that you laid out, and it was like a baseball field, and you had 9, 10 players or whatever it was, and you had a 20-sided dice, and ultimately when you roll this dice, you add it to the numbers that the player has on the card, and it equates to a hit or an out, or if it's a pitcher, it could be a strikeout or whatever the case is. But it was this like small phenomenon, I feel like, in a way, down here, at least in South Florida. Like me and my friends would play all the time, and after school we would go to our local card shop and play there, and I would buy singles. Like I remember having my mom like buy me the Barry Bonds card, which was like the ultimate cheat code, which lo and behold later on we find out why it was such a cheat code. But nonetheless, like I remember it creating this like camaraderie between me and my friends, where we were always trying to outdo each other, outperform, collect the new card. And for me, that led to Pokemon, it led to Yu-Gi-Oh, it led to then collecting actual sports cards. Like I remember even going to this arcade. There was an arcade down here in Boca called Chamberlain's, and I remember they had a box of 92 Topps basketball, and I was like, I don't even know what was in it, but I wanted it.
Yeah.
And I got it, and I remember it had the Shaq rookie, and I held on to that Shaq rookie for like 20 years until him and I started to break. And I sold it on a singles stream that we did on Whatnot when we had started. It was kind of like bittersweet because like I had pulled it. And then even in the same realm, at the same exact time when I was at Chamberlain's, I got another box they had from like 05, 06 Topps, and I had like a LeBron James card. And I ended up sending that to SGC when him and I started. you know, and then I ended up selling that down the line. But it's like, the matter of fact is that, like you said, even like your family held on to these cards, and they mean something. So it took us into this journey where now, you know, 20 years after I'm collecting these cards almost, you know, Pete and I are working together. We were working customer service, and he starts telling me, he's like, yeah, me and my cousin have been collecting these football cards. You know, the new rookie class is incredible with this guy Justin Herbert and Tua and Joe
2020 was a
Burrow.
good year, man.
Yep. That's
2020
a good
was
year
a
to get
great
into it,
Yeah,
man.
you know, and
yeah.
that's when you start hearing about like that Lucas sale that, you
Yeah.
know, all these people are making this insane money. And it's like, yeah, at first you think of like, well, I can make money off of this stuff. I used to collect. I you know, I love sports. But then you start refining that passion along the way, and that's exactly what happened. So like, after 2 months of him telling me about this, and now I start watching breaks and I'm buying into breaks, and you know, him and I are going to these shops. I just like tell him like, are you still interested in doing this like as like a business? And we jump on into it, and you know, it starts off small time, part time. But we were blessed with an opportunity when we started throwing the show to go full time with it. And now like we have our own office space. We connect with all the local shops. So I mean, it was passion turned into a way where we were like, this is an opportunity for us to create a new source of income. And we rediscovered that passion once again. And it's even like reinvigorated our passion for sports. Like, you know, Pete loved baseball, but like I haven't seen him this enthused about baseball ever since I met him. You know, and it comes with us being able to, like, yesterday we host a Bowman draft break, and I send him a picture. Look at what we pulled. It's this green auto of Paul Skeens and an orange auto of Wyatt Langford. And it's like, that's freaking amazing. Because who was the first person to tell me about Wyatt Langford? Pete, because this guy's prospecting all the time. And now he actually uses that knowledge of prospecting into his collecting world.
Yes.
It's crazy because you asked that question and immediately like a memory just pops up. I remember me and my cousin, who really is kind of the person that brought me back into it. I remember us, washing cars around the neighborhood, just getting money so that we can go and buy a box of cards for ourselves. And it's just those memories kind of come up of like where it started. Well, it started, through, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh when we were younger, and how much, man, I wish I had, the wherewithal to keep all those packs in packs when I did, because
That's why they're so expensive
we'd
now, though,
we'd
because
have a
Yeah.
everyone.
So, but now, like, in 2020, when, Daniel is one of those people, or Imano, it's hard for me because, we're so close. I call him by his first name so much. When we got into it, the one great thing about Amano is that if he gets into something passionate, he puts 100% into it. And, for me, like I'm one that has these passions and these things that came about, and we just took it and went off on it. I remember in 2020, man, you've never waited until you're at 5 a.m. at a Target waiting for them to open for whatever, to hope you get a blaster, a blaster.
I slept outside of a Target for 1 mega box.
I mean,
That's crazy.
And then now, to now where we are, where, we can host a case break of all these different options. We're hosting our own show that people are going to come to. And, again, to have the people that we had, I mean, we had over 2,000 people come through our door for just our second show. The impact in just such a short time, we're only talking 3 years. It's amazing where, just something that we did, innocently as kids, something that we had a passion for has become, even more of a passion, and quite frankly, our livelihood here as adults.
I love that. And it's a similar story to so many people I speak to. It's a similar story. I mean, even quite frankly, with me, I found that you get so wrapped up in like the rat race, especially when you transition from like a kid into like early adolescent. You start working, and things kind of deviate. You almost like lose passion. So you come out of school, and like you're no longer playing sports, and everything is kind of like, what is this going to give for me? What is this going to do for me? Like, how do I survive while also incorporating this in my life? And the pandemic hits, and I'm like, you know what? Let's go back and figure out, like, what am I actually passionate about? Like, what are my hobbies? Because I don't have any, right? Like, I'm like, a hobby can't be going out like and going for a few drinks. Like, that's like, it can't be a hobby, right? Like, yeah,
Well, that's
That's an
alcoholism.
addiction.
yeah, I know,
That's an
of
addiction.
course, right? Like, yeah, I like watching, and of course, like but there's no sports on TV, so I'm like, okay, well, and I'm like, wait a second, like I collected like my whole life. I collected something, you know, like, and I've kept up with some collections, but I really like I get that feeling inside, that nostalgic, I'm a kid again when I'm collecting. And I jump back into collecting and I started talking about collecting and and then fast forward and now all of a sudden like this has enhanced my life in ways that I could never have imagined. Like I ended up sharing a stage with Ray Borg, who's someone like I watched on TV. Like I remember him lifting the Stanley Cup for the Colorado Avalanche. And I'm like, bro, this is like I could never imagine a million dream or a million dreams. Never in a million years would I have dreamed of this, right?
Even
So
a million dreams, man.
Oh,
a
yeah.
Even
million
at a
dreams as
million, like that's
well.
still
A mil-
accurate. I'm not even gonna take that away from you. Like, I mean, how many people look at you crazy, right? When you tell them you're traveling from Canada to Florida for freaking sports
I know,
cards.
I know, it's true. I mean, most of them think I'm saying sports cars.
Oh yeah, at first they're just like, what kind? Like Corvettes, Lambos, and it's like,
We have a
no,
lot of
like I'm
those.
I'm talking about like this rookie card right here.
You gotta pull out a piece of paper. You gotta have like you have one in your back pocket just in case. But yeah, no, it's amazing. And I like I said previously, just having so many different people as advocates and trying to get more people into the space. People when they're passionate about what they're doing, the seas almost part. Like I mean, this is actually something that came directly from Steven from Filthbomb. He was on one of our podcasts a few weeks back, and he said that like I tried so many different things as as I was growing up. And, I've always been an entrepreneur, but, when I found this path, it's almost like the seas parted and things just kind of like fell into place. Right. And it sounds like that's what happened with you guys. I know it's what happened with me. There's so many stories like this in the sports card hobby and in the collectible space in general that I have the utmost of love and I guess optimism for the entire space.
Yeah, I mean, like one thing I'll tell you about is like, you're talking about like how we have to rediscover our passions, right? The things that fuel us, that give us life, that literally make your face tingle.
Yep.
Like when you're going through it. Like I'm feeling that right now, like when we're having this conversation. Like it's so cool that like we get to connect with somebody in an entirely other country
Yep.
over sports cards, right? It's like even your friend said, like splitting the sea. That's the exact feeling you want. I think it's not really that we lose sight of what makes us feel that way, right? It's just we kind of forget it in a sense. Like it escapes us, right? It's there, but it escapes us. It's like a shadow. It's like Peter Pan's shadow, right? Like he was always
Yeah.
chasing his shadow, and he then finally caught it and he pinned it down to his feet. And it's like when you become an adult, right? You're told like full-time work, go to school. You're told what the standard is supposed to be, but we forget the idea that being a human is a unique experience to every other human. Like everything I go through is not going to be what Pete goes through. Everything Pete goes through is not going to be what you go through, and so on and so forth. But we still kind of have similar experiences on the sense of the way it makes you feel. And we lose that feeling of what that passion is when we get told what the standard is, and we go based on other people's standards and other people's expectations of how they feel upon us and what life should be for us, right? But you need to always remind yourself, like, what is the thing that's going to keep you, putting one foot in front of the other so you could walk down your own path, right? You can't walk down somebody else's path because they're already on that path, so you'll never get to go around them and get ahead of them, right? And even when you do, then they're going to take it in the wrong manner, and that's when problems begin, right? But we succeed when we recognize the uniqueness in being able to walk our own path. And like for me, I got told that, and I know my mother and my father and everybody in my life told me those kinds of things because they love me and they care about me, right?
Of course,
It
man.
doesn't ever
And
come from a
they
bad
want
place.
the best for you, and
Exactly. It
like
comes
and
from a sense of insecurity. Like, I don't want you to make any mistakes like I did. I
yeah.
want you
I
to be
or I
this
don't even want
person.
you to be hurt. You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
Exactly.
a parent doesn't want like their kid to be hurt, right? So,
Literally,
but
you know how
that's
many
actually the
women my
opposite.
mother
That's
has
like the
tried protecting
opposite
me
of what you
from?
need. Like you actually need that failure. You need that disappointment. Like,
Yeah,
you actually need
exactly.
that to figure out what exactly like where does this all fall into place?
Like wounds don't heal unless you allow them to, and we fall and we scrape our knees, and you have to get up every single time. Like there's no reason not to, because your path continues based on the way you feel about yourself and your passions and things like that. And when my family told me those kinds of things, and I didn't recognize that it was coming from a good place. I did it because I thought that that was just what you got to do. My friends were doing it as well because their parents were also telling them. right? But I always knew in my stomach, it was just like one of those things where it's like, there's something more, and every day that goes by, you lose a sense of what that something more can be, or that hunger to go chase after that something more, and I recommend nobody ever loses that. I'll say I definitely spent years where I feel like I lost that feeling,
Me too, man.
because
Yeah.
I was doing what people had suggested, and I didn't do it out of a bad place. They didn't suggest it out of a bad place, but it comes out of the idea of, like you said, just that safeness, that security, trying to basically feel life's warm embrace, right? But it doesn't come unless you take risks at the same time. Where there's security, you have to find balance between security and risk. I can make a gamble, right? But if I'm gambling away my mortgage, then I'm going to lose my
Of
house,
course.
right? So that's why, like, for me personally, I stick to $5 or $10 bets.
Yeah.
And that's just me. But I realized, when him and I were working full time, I was having a great time where we were working. We had a lot of great opportunities. We were in this young company that was growing very rapidly. They're multi-billion-dollar industry today, and we were with them from some of the growing steps. Pete and I probably both saw like 5-6 promotions in, like, 3-4 years. We were in the same department, and at the end of the day, him and I would always like tell each other, like, this is great. We're going down a path where, sooner or later we're going to get salaries, and we're going to be able to support families. And, he was about to get married, all this stuff. And then boom, the pandemic hits. Right. And then they're starting to tell people like, oh, we're going to work from home. We're going to start doing it. And it puts a strain on it. And then all of a sudden that sense of security vanishes. Right. Because then you're like, well, what could happen? Right. I'm seeing this business is gone. I'm seeing this local restaurant just is gone. I never thought that place would leave. This person is now leaving the state because they have no more opportunities here and they need to go seek it elsewhere. And it turns from security into panic, right? And now you're just like, well, what am I going to do? And that's like what I'm sure you kind of did the same thing, right? You turn toward, well, what do I love? Because what I love is going to be the thing that makes me feel secure again. And my love was music, but I couldn't go to concerts no more, right? So I had started a podcast and I started bringing in artists to my house. We would wear masks and everything, but I was interviewing them and I was making sure we stayed connected to people, because it turned from being able to connect at a concert to, what, people want to know who you are.
Yeah.
And then I started a podcast with him, but the thing was, you only had so much that you could do when there's this limitation on life, right? But then cards presents this whole new realm with breaking, right? And people going on Whatnot and all these new platforms for like auctions. And now Fanatics is taking an interest and expands this industry. And the beautiful part is, right, you rediscover that passion. Pete and I rediscover that passion. And now the even more beautiful part is how full circle things are. Right.
Yes.
Like when me and Pete worked full time, I could never get this guy to stop playing Pokemon at his freaking desk, right? Like, it's like, what are you doing? Oh, I have my emulator on playing Pokemon. This guy's about to start his own Pokemon channel, right? And that's
Unreal.
just aside from the cards. Like our,
Yeah.
our card business is fueling his passion to now go and stream Pokemon, right? We just got a desktop computer. I'm producing music again. I haven't been able to do that in the last few years in a right state. Now I got my amplifier and everything all hooked up with my guitar and all this stuff. And now I'm able to recreate my music business through cards, right? And things will always come full circle, right? Like maybe, you have your focus on this one passion in life, right? But it shifts based on experiences and what life throws at you, right? The pandemic threw a big ball of crap at everybody.
For sure.
And it made everybody have to not look with the blinders on, but take the blinders off and now look around a little bit and see, well, like, what else do I have? Because your hobbies aren't limited to just one.
Yeah.
It's whatever you put your heart into, and your heart has so many different pieces. So I mean, like, at the end of the day, just pursue those passions, and it may not be that one at the time, but just turn a little bit to the left. You're gonna find that other one. You're gonna see those paths merge into one.
I
I
agree.
think I think it's finding your healthy obsession, and at the end of the day, it's gotta be healthy. For me, it was baseball. I wanted to be an MLB player. I worked my butt off, and I was blessed with the ability to play college baseball. But have some opportunities outside of college baseball. Unfortunately, I had to get my entire back repaired. And all those opportunities, were gone. They didn't, they weren't there. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there, and, my obsession, to be the best, player, that I could be, turned into, well, what do I do now? what is next for me in life. And just like Daniel, we had very, very good support systems that kind of helped us, kind of figure out what we liked. And I'm very thankful for that job, to leading me to a friendship, not just with Imano, but with other people that are positive influences in my life. And it was a very nice temporary obsession, but being able to find the things that really make you happy in life and then just going full force and going at it. I remember leaving that job. I specifically left that job and took a job for the money. Took a job so that I can have a great
We
salary.
both actually did.
And,
We both went to the exact. We jumped company to company and
and I've never been as miserable as taking a job for the money. And I, it was nice. The paycheck felt good, but I didn't. I was coming home and, I was, I was irritable. I had
I
my
just want to
wife at home.
disclose that this guy was running a customer service company, like the entire company, for an AC company in South Florida in the middle of summer.
Man,
I'm just letting everybody know this.
Oh,
This was literally just for the summer.
It was as miserable as I've ever been. And I'm, it felt like I was kind of in like a dark space. And, for me, the pandemic was an opportunity for me to not only, I found a lot of the loves back in my life, man. I found a men's league that I can still, go out there and feel like, all right, you know what? I still can do this a little
Yeah.
bit. I can go out there and show my stuff. And then I started to get into cards, and that just became the healthy obsession that I needed in my life to continue pushing on and finding something. And at the end of the day, if you have something that you truly, truly love, and you can obsess over it, work as hard as you can at it, man, because it may seem like it's just the longest, it may seem like the longest road. It may just start with, you just opening a pack of, or a blaster of 2020 Bowman, where I got reinvigorated. But that has turned into what it, the passion that it is today. And the first day of 2024, I'm excited that I made, I never make that regret that I left that job that I had that comfortable salary for, and went out and I took that leap of faith. And I can't regret it, because what I may not have, financially for that short amount of time, I made up for it, where I just feel like a much happier person.
Just feel whole at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. It brings me to a quote. It's like the man who loves walking will walk further than the man who like loves the destination. It's like when you're in that position where it's just money focused, it's very clear, like, okay, like show up at work, get a paycheck, and I'm going to be doing this for 6 or 7 years or 10 years or 15 years, or however long I'm going to be here. And I'm going to retire. And then there's then life starts. Do you know what I mean? Versus, you tell me that there's different stages. You open your first box of Bowman, you have no idea where that's going to lead. It's out of like sheer curiosity, and you're like, and you're so excited to like figure something else out. And you're like, oh, let me like do some research on this card and research on this player. And, now I'm into grading companies, and you're actually, it just kind of consumes you. Cause you just, to your point, like having a healthy obsession, you just have no choice but to fall down the rabbit hole, and I think if more people followed their passions, I think obviously a lot of more people would be happy. Obviously, I feel invigorated just having a conversation with both of you. And so hopefully the audience does as well. I want to make sure that everyone who's listening has the opportunity to either experience, what you guys are all about, whether that's in the physical form. So actually being at your shop, at one of your shows, at one of your trade nights, consuming your content either through the podcast or through your other channels. So let me know and let our audience know, where can we find out more about Hobby Slam? Where can we find out more about Pete? Where can we find out more about Imano?
Like the thing I'll say is this, and I guess it's a way for us to also kind of let people know, what our focus is for 2024. We're looking to be more media based at this point. We actually have our podcast fully launching on a regular basis, starting up this month. It's going to go bi-weekly, and it's ultimately every season is in preparation for every show we throw. So for those who don't know who we are and what we do, we come from Hobby Slam. Hobby Slam it started off as a show. and it started off in a gymnasium, and now it's gone into a convention center down here in Miami, Florida, right 10-15 minutes away from downtown Florida, or downtown Miami. I'm sorry about that. And we just look to incorporate not just sports cards, but the worlds of sports cards with arts and music and things alike that continue to expand this community. It's a beautiful community that we have here. So ultimately, I mean, yeah, we're going more media focused. You know, we want to have a podcast out because, you know, it's like you said, you want to know more about Pete, you want to know more about Imano, and we want people to know who we are. You know, we don't want it to just be this like ominous brand where people are like, well, who is it and stuff like that. It's like, no, it's like we are a part of this community as much as we want to connect the community. You know, you'll catch us at every event that we're hosting, and it's the entire team, and we're going to make sure that, you know, we're interacting and engaging with every single person that's there. You know, it's not just a sales based initiative anymore. It's purely connection, it's purely collaboration, it's purely to make sure that the community only benefits from whatever we do. And that's why we took it from just throwing traditional shows to having a trade night tour where we're going to be going around to 5 different shops. You know, we're at Art Basel now, which is still mind blowing to me because I love Art Basel as an attendee. You know, like the night before Art Basel, I was literally at Action Bronson concert and went in front of Loop to kind of motivate myself a little bit, eating a piece of pizza, and there's Rick Ross right there.
Crazy.
You know, just performing in the shop across the street. And it's like, to know that we're able to create these experiences now, it means so much. But what would be more beautiful is just having more people understand that it's like, let's all connect this community together. You know, even like what you're doing, Coach, is like huge because I love your personal page, man. I love what you actually do. Like, you wake up every morning, you're walking.
Every day.
I wake up, I'm like, man, this guy walks in the blistering cold. I at least get to walk out to tropical paradise. Like, let me walk out here right now and go enjoy myself. And like, even like the motivation you put out there is like, it doesn't just pertain to one certain lifestyle. It's like beautiful that like all these different lifestyles are now meshing together. You know, even like shout out Dr. Collectible. Dr. Collectible is bringing to life people to understand that diversity is a beautiful thing, and diversity doesn't just mean the shade of skin that is on your body. It's also what do you collect and how you collect, and you know, from music to cards and beyond. Like these are beautiful things that continue to happen within this community every day, and we're just looking to continue to grow that conversation and grow it any other way that we can.
So to find us, if you're looking for us, Hobby Slam on Instagram is where you're going to be able to find us. You're going to be able to find all of our connected page through there. You have Rips by Imano over here. Pete Pulse Heat is where you can find us as far as our card different pages. Obviously, our show is going to be June 21st through the 23rd, Friday through Sunday. Check it out, man. Hobby Slam 3 is going to be, in our estimation, we want to have a premier card experience here in South Florida, and we want to create, and we want to be, you know, again, we want to make sure that everyone understands the South Florida community is a big time card collecting and card loving community. And Hobby Slam is where you can find all of that in one place.
Cut my wrestling promo real quick.
I
gotta
go
cut
for it. Yeah.
So now we can just let you have it like real quick, guys. You don't understand. This is not just any show. 350 tables, sports cards, trading cards, vintage clothing, sneakers, all that beautiful stuff. We're gonna continue to mix, mesh, and all that, right? Not only that, you get to come to sunny South Florida, Miami, Florida, at that in the middle of the summer, at the most beautiful time when people actually want to be here. So you get to go vacation where you can also collect at the same time. Make some money in the sun. Go sit by the pool. Go run over to the beach. Go grab a drink. Go hit up Big Pink and have yourself a little donut burger with the Kobe beef. I really don't care. But you're missing out if you're not coming down to Miami, Florida, June 21st through the 23rd, 2024, to the Miami Airport Convention Center and experiencing a show that you've never experienced before, something that's going to set the tone for other shows, not just for the year, but for decades to come. We'll see you at Hobby Slam.
And guys, we are going to a lot of shows as well. The next one I believe we're going to be at is Culture Collision in Atlanta.
Shout out Prism God.
If you guys see us, man, we're always, our big thing is connection, man. Come up to us, say, hey, man, I saw you guys on Coach's podcast. Come on
Love
up.
it.
Just come say hi.
We are very, very approachable.
Well, I'll shout out the shows real quick. I know we're going to Culture Collision in January, Bay Area Card Show in February. Great people up in Tampa. More than likely, we're going to be hitting up Dallas in March, as well as the Palm Beach Card Show, another great card show here in South Florida that takes place in West Palm Beach. That's going to be happening in early March. You don't want to miss that one as well. I know tables are selling out fast for that, so yeah, get on that immediately. And then probably from
What happened?
You'll be up in Canada.
well, yeah, I do want to go to Canada. I don't know when the
Man.
next Toronto show is though.
I think you
could
might
be a
have to.
possibility.
So ours is I think the 23rd of April to the 26th.
Oh, that might not be bad. That's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
right before my birthday, so maybe that might make sense.
That may be at least a Daniel only show. I'm expecting a daughter around that time.
Hey,
our
congratulations.
first, so I probably will not be there for that time. That's kind of going to be my little dead area. But
we have an agreement that if the baby's born on my birthday, he's going to name it Daniel.
I have not. It's already been decided. The name
Middle
is not
name.
going to be announced until the date, but whatever.
Daniela.
No,
Exactly.
no, actually, that's completely off
He
the table.
refuses it.
I love it. Guys, honestly, thank you so much for joining today. Team, you already know, like we said previously, Hobby Slam. Check out their socials. Check out the damn show. And feel free to reach out to Imano and Pete. As you know, you guys, these are wonderful people. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of the Cardboard Coach featuring Hobby Slam. Coach Co and Imano and Pete are out of here.
We
Peace.
appreciate you, Coach.
Appreciate you.